No role plays, just real. Chris and Lorenzo share 4 decades of combined experience to help you become a more effective leader.
We've never really, as a workforce, spent a lot of time on making sure we're developing good leaders.
We'll be able to share stories, experience, mistakes, failures, successes.
This is Hacking Your Leadership.
Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
And Lorenzo, on this episode, I want to talk about something that came to mind as a little bit of a follow-up to last week's Thoughtful Thursday. We were talking about adult tantrums a little bit, and I saw an interesting article that Delta Airlines is trying to implement a national no-fly list based on people who have had, adult tantrums. And this isn't like, you can get banned from flying because the government thinks that you're a terrorist. This is where Delta will talk to other airlines or American or Frontier, whatever it is. And if you have been removed from one airline, that it is likely you'd be removed from all of them, which kind of ups the stakes a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would take a part-time job as like a flight referee that would just eject people from the plane. Like that seems like that would be kind of fun.
It could be a reality TV show.
Exactly, but that's pretty intense. Like if you want to level the bar of accountability for people acting up on flights, that's the way to do it.
There's no doubt people who have thought, maybe not. You don't see this behavior out of people who have a million miles with Delta, right? These are probably people who don't have a long history with the airline. There could be some exceptions, but these are people who have they're flying the airline for the first time or they fly it sporadically, and I'm sure a thought has crossed their mind. I guess I'm not going to be allowed on this airline again. Oh well, I'll just pick a different one, and it raises the stakes if these actions could cause you to literally not be able to fly commercial airlines again. That's a whole different, ball of wax there if you are a person who's thinking about, getting unruly on a flight.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, honestly, like I think that they're, like with all things, I think it's important to have either, if it's a review or information, that type of thing, because there are things that can happen to somebody at certain times that could really get somebody upset. And again, I'm not making excuses for their actions, but I think there should be some type of a review. But I'm totally fine if somebody is just like not being safe, not being respectful, causing a major scene, whatever the cases are, and they get ejected from a flight. Like that should be an option that you don't get to fly again. If that was a known rule or a known outcome potentially, I think it would start to reduce the amount of bad behaviors on some of these flights.
Right. So it got me thinking a little bit. Because what they're basically saying is that this is a really small world, so be careful, what you do, because your actions have implications elsewhere. And the reason why it got me thinking is because there is a kind of a little known practice that is not formalized by any means, but there is something that happens in a lot of industries where if an employee is applying for multiple jobs in multiple companies within the same industry, and let's say they get hired on at their third or fourth choice to go to this company, and they start the job, and 2 or 3 days later, their number one choice calls them and says, "Hey, you know what? We've decided to move forward with you. We'd like you to start on this day." And then the employee will just stop showing up to work on the third or fourth day or the third or fourth week of employment at the job they got offered first because they want to go to their first choice. And then what happens is the person who is the onboarding manager or the hiring manager at the job they just stopped showing up to will just start to call the people they know in the industry to let them know that a person has done this. And there have been employees or applicants who have thought they were about to start work at their top choice, only to be told, you know what, we've changed our mind. We've come into some information that says that you might not be the right fit for this organization. And I know people who have said to me that they've done this, and I know employees who have said that they were planning on doing this when they got their other job. And I've told them, be really careful here because it's a very small world. What do you think about this? Have you ever seen this kind of rear its head?
Two things. I think one time I know one person that this actually happened to. And it wasn't even that I knew them really in a professional way. It was kind of a friend of a friend, but where they had worked in a certain industry and company for a while, and then had done that, had got recruited by a couple of organizations, went to one, then got offered by the other one, and then just figured they would just go and just ghost and not show up anymore, and was like, kind of like, haha, I got my number one choice. And then they got to they had provided the offer. They went there to do their paperwork, and when they went there to do the paperwork, the person actually said, we're going to rescind this offer. To your point, like we're going to rescind this offer. We have decided against the hire currently, and that person ghosted one job and then didn't get the next job, and it was for them probably very frustrating and surprising. But I think that's kind of the first thing. I've actually known somebody this has happened to. The second part of this is that what you said, like, this is a really small world. And as you work in industries, as you work in areas, if you've lived somewhere for 5 or 10 years, and you're active in the community and you're active in different types of things, you start to build relationships and make networks. You start to find other people, get to know the people that are in similar industries, or that, you might meet because your kids go to the same school, and then you connect and then you get to know each other. Like, there's all these things that happen. And when you have a small world like that, and when you have a big network of people and you've got great relationships with them, those phone calls get made informally. There's no formal process for this. But I mean, I've had employees that worked for me 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago that have moved on, did different things, maybe moved to different states, maybe moved back, but all over the place. And I'll get a phone call from somebody that says, Hey, what's up, Lozo? Hey, just real quick, man, I know it's been a minute, but have you ever worked with this person? Right? Mm-hmm. We came across a resume, or we're considering somebody. Have you worked with this person? And is it, is there anything you can share about it? And again, it is sometimes 6 degrees of separation when I get that phone call. But that happens. That really does happen, because in these industries and in these areas, and when you have a network of people that you can trust and they trust you, why wouldn't they make sure that if there is a connection there, that they could do a little bit more research or find out from somebody?
Right.
I absolutely do my best. I think I might have shared this on a podcast before, like a while ago, when I was talking about helping people write resumes. Like, I absolutely do my best not to provide negative information. It's not my thing. Like, I feel like if people have moved on, that type of thing, I will be vague, and I will just say something like, oh yeah, like, Chris worked with me many, many years ago, and at that time, Chris was really effective at the role he was doing, and we appreciated his work. And I'll leave it at that. Mm-hmm. Now, if you and I work together, and I think you're fantastic, and I was like, oh man, it killed me to lose Chris when he left, or when he moved, or whatever. Like, I'll tell you right now, if you can pick up somebody like Chris, like, that's a steal. Like, that's somebody I would take back today. I'm going to go over the top with the positive element of that, because I feel that that's what's necessary to do. And I also know that, like, people grow and people learn and people, figure out mistakes they've made in the past. Now, if it was 2 weeks ago, if it's new, if it's something that's recent, then I don't know. I don't know. I have not been put in that position in quite a while, but I've absolutely had people reach out to me for advice or for insight on people that I've worked with before.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, I think you are in the minority in terms of, I think there are a lot of people out there who would absolutely not pull any punches when it comes to, what they would say about a former employee. And I'm not talking about somebody in, we're not about the formalized process of, you call the person's the HR team, where they're just going to answer the questions of, they want to verify employment, they want to verify, the start date and the end date, and they want to ask the question, is this person rehirable? That's basically the questions you're going to get asked if there's a formal process around a person leaving a job and checking references and stuff like that. This isn't the formal process. I'm talking about the informal process that happens because it is a small world, and because people are friends, because people talk with each other, because that even if 2 people work in competing businesses in the same industry, that doesn't mean that those 2 people are competing. It just means that broadly the 2 companies might be, competing for market share, but there's a lot of friendships that happen, within those industries. There was a you always see like the Gallup polls and the Deloitte polls that talk about how people change jobs on average every 3 to 4 years. If you look at how often they change industries, it's significantly less. And so just because a person is changing jobs doesn't mean they're changing industries. So that's why the world is so small. And it's not just about the ghosting of a job because you want a better one. It's about how you exit any job. There are people who, we know the saying, people don't leave companies, they leave managers, right? And if you are leaving a job because you don't like your boss or you don't like your entire leadership team, it might be really tempting to get the catharsis of the grand exit, the big middle finger, and the whatever you want to do to say, you know what, you're not gonna hurt me one more day and maybe you're right, maybe they deserve that, but to think that they can't hurt you more in terms of the phone calls that get made is really naive. Because the person that they're going to be calling doesn't know that they're a jerk, or maybe they do. Maybe you know what? Maybe you're 100% right. No one trusts them, and they've burned all their bridges, and they don't have any clout, and they can't impact your future. But maybe they can. Maybe they can with a single phone call, and it's just not worth it. Whether you're deciding whether to take a stand for whatever you believe in on a Delta Airlines flight, or take a stand for whatever you believe in a place of employment as you are walking out the door, this idea of not considering how your actions have far-reaching implications, and that you could be potentially paying a price for those things down the road. I just think it's really short-sighted.
Look, we've all in careers. You've worked for people and for leaders that maybe it wasn't the greatest experience, but and I've been there, right? I've been there, and so I understand like the emotional part and the element of it, and leaving an organization, and quitting or whatever the case is. And I know that there's a lot of emotion behind that, but I think to your point, just getting away. And just kind of getting away, doing it the right way, doing whatever you got to do, not kind of dropping your values and standards to meet maybe the experience that you've been in. It can be really difficult, but I would agree. It's the same advice that I would give to somebody is like, look, if you got to get out of something, like just get out and just kind of get away from it and don't make too much noise. Because I think it's like to your point, like I've spent most of my entire career in retail leadership walking around malls and talking to the general managers and the assistant managers and of all the other retailers and similar industry retailers, because we also have shared customers, a lot of times. And so like I have to have good relationships with those that are literally direct competitors. Like we sell exactly the same thing sometimes. But because of the dynamics of the relationship, I have to get to know them, and I need to know them, and they need to know me, and we need to, sometimes be a resource to one another for certain situations. But in full transparency, like I'm always recruiting. I'm always getting to know people. I'm always looking for potential talent, leaders, great employees. Like that's just, I think it's a part of the job that you have to really put effort into. So I'm always out there building networks to kind of get to know who's who, what's what, who are the high performers, who are the ones that are most engaged as I think about filling my potential talent bench. And so in that type of space and doing that kind of work, you really do get to know everyone. And people ask, and people say things, and people want to know, and so that happens quite a bit. And so it's just I think it is naive to believe that people don't talk, that people don't know other people in other jobs, similar industries, different industries. That's just in my experience anyway. That's just the cases that we do. We know a lot of people. And again, maybe not everybody is so proactive in that community element or recruitment or building networks. I don't know. But in my case, I feel strongly that myself and a lot of the people that I know, like you and other leaders, everybody has a really strong network, and they know a lot of people in a lot of places, and it's not difficult to get a hold of somebody, without a couple of phone calls. It's actually pretty easy in most instances.
Right. When you ever see like in a movie or a TV show, someone pleads the fifth on the stand, the first thought is, oh, they're guilty, right? And obviously we shouldn't think that. There's a reason why we have the Fifth Amendment, but that's the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, that that person's guilty if they're taking the fifth. You mentioned earlier that someone calls you, and if we're talking about a candidate who is just, they were an invaluable member of your team, you will be over the top in terms of how amazing they were, and talking about how you are incredibly lucky to get this person if you can have them. Sometimes, even if you're not telling a person who calls you, run screaming from this person and do not hire them, if all you have to say is virtually nothing, is, yep, they worked for us, they worked for me, you've essentially pleaded the fifth. Like, you don't want to like badmouth somebody, but if a person knows you and knows that you will go over the top in terms of the positivity for someone who deserves that positivity, the lack of that is telling. And if you're listening to this right now and you've ever been job offered and then had that job offer rescinded, or if you felt like things were moving along smoothly in a hiring process, an interview process with an organization, and then all of a sudden they decided to just not move forward with you. Oh, you know what? We filled it with another candidate. I'm sorry. You really should be thinking about, okay, what relationships have I not done well with in my past? Because it is very possible that one of those conversations happened that led to this with you.
Absolutely. And with that, it brings us to this episode's 1 minute hack. But first, a few words from our sponsors.
The 1 minute hack.
All right, for this episode's 1 minute hack, here's what I want you to do. If you're in the process of transitioning out of a job right now, or you're thinking about doing it, you're ready to move on for whatever reason, I want you to really think about the importance of exiting gracefully from that job, making sure that all of your relationships are strong, making sure that no bridges are burned, making sure that you give whatever notice is appropriate given the expectations of that job, that you shake hands with people and make sure that you have a good relationship with them, even people who you don't get along with, people who you don't respect potentially, bosses or leaders who you cannot wait for this to be your last day of employment with them, to make sure that you understand that what do they say, the best revenge is leading a successful life. Well, this is what that comes down to. Know that your revenge, or that your catharsis, is coming from leaving that organization, getting on with another organization, and doing your best work there and being happy with it. Don't take the opportunity to burn that bridge, or to kill that relationship, or to try to get the temporary catharsis of giving the middle finger, and you will be a lot less likely to have this impact you negatively going forward. And you'll also be a happier person if you just put that bag of bricks down and just lead a successful life yourself, as opposed to thinking about how you can get back at other people.
So just to clarify then, you shouldn't do what I saw the other day on YouTube, which is get on the PA system of your employer and then talk about all the leaders that suck and be like, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, you're cool, you're bad. And then just walk up out of there. Maybe not the greatest idea if you're ever going to try to get another job anywhere else. Yes, I would agree. Like I said, I get it. There's some things that's just, it's a relief to say what you feel you need to say. But for the longer term and then for your own success going on, most of the time it's just best to kind of walk away.
Yeah, it is absolutely fleeting. Whatever feel good you get out of doing whatever that you were thinking about doing, taking a stand and making known your stance on a person or a group of people, that will go away the next day, even if you don't have any ramifications from it. This isn't something you will have happy feelings about for the rest of your life. It goes away because those people aren't worth your time to begin with. So move on and just do your best work.
Absolutely. And with that, it brings us to the end of this episode. This is Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Lorenzo.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll talk to you all next time.